Attendez.
Hey everybody.
Hi everyone.
Yeah. Welcome to this week's live stream. I'm Thomas and
I'm Hugo, still the same guy.
And we haven't moved from last week.
No.
This is where we live. So today we wanted to chat about a few things with you guys. A lot of you mentioned that you wanted us to talk about the game Rise Up, which is a super interesting subject, and we actually have a few essential things we think we'd like to tell you about the game. The first thing is the importance of player progression and how that impacts retention. The second thing is the importance of telling a small story and how that impacts CPI. And I think Hugo also wants to say something on trends afterwards.
Yes. What is really interesting with Rise Up and with all the game that basically we call unicorns, the game that were a huge hit in the stores with a lot of downloads and that a little bit changed the game, is that they have all in common that they didn't follow any trends, any current trends, but they created a new one. And how they create a new one is very simple to say, very hard to do, is by creating a new game mechanic. Just like All.io did, Rise Up did, Baseball Boy did, Snake vs. Block did that also before. And what happens is basically this game came up from nowhere, goes on top, and then is copycat, or at least it inspires a lot of other gameplay around it.
But the original one stays on top.
Yes.
Always. So that's exactly true. If you want a game that's very successful, you need to be first on the trend. But you also need to have some good mechanics and some good ideas about the game when you make it. And the first thing which is really interesting in Rise Up for us is the level progression. So the game is actually quite hard, but you also do have a feeling of progressing every time you play the game, because you pass through certain levels, you recognize the levels, and after a few games played, you're like, okay, I've been here before, I know how to do this, and I can be better at this than last time.
Yes, if I can add something, basically, in ultra casual, the core loop of gameplay is always very simple. So in order so that the player doesn't get bored, it's very important to give a sensation of progression.
Yeah.
And this is what Rise Up really succeeds at.
Yeah. Actually, with Hugo, we both think that the game is a little too hard. Actually,
yes.
It's very, very hard. But that feeling of progression sort of helps with that. So ideally, it would be forgiving and easy, and with the feeling of progression.
Yes, and you guys are really interesting about new trends in the ultra casual. I don't know if you've seen our game Thank You, which reached the top recently. He created not an entirely new mechanics, but at least he created a little trend, or at least an insight that we thought for a long time that was really successful in the game. But Thank You confirmed that, and this insight is that difficulty needs to be really, really low into the game. Losing, since you add the leveling system into your game, it's not relevant anymore. Having a death mechanic is not really relevant anymore. You can really decrease the difficulty of every one of your game in order to make the win much more easy, and so the game much more satisfying.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of moving on from that, you have all those mechanics that help with retention, but you also need some good insights with your unicorn, with like making a prototype to make a unicorn on CPI. And one thing which is always very helpful for CPI is telling a small story in your game. And this doesn't mean spending months on design or actually creating a narrative. It's just choosing exactly which is the only element you need to make it clear. So if you look at Rise Up, all the obstacles are very simple, white geometric shapes. Everything is very, very abstract apart from only one thing, and it's the most important thing, and it's the balloon that they have at the bottom of the screen that you need to protect. And that's absolutely fundamental in making the player understand when he just sees a video, okay, I have to protect this balloon. A helium balloon is rising, it's fragile, I have to protect it. It's the perfect example. Like it's a tiny, tiny bit of design, and it really just, the only thing it serves is understanding and comprehension, and that's all you need to do.
And you're right, Rise Up is indeed a clone of Force Escape. Why this game was so successful on the store is mainly from everything what we said, the fact that you're telling a small story, and also because of the design and the atmosphere that they put into the game. We told last week that it was really important to have a balance 50-50 between men and women into their game. Yeah. Force Escape was really masculine, really geeky around
A bit dark.
really dark and not bright as Rise Up with the little clouds and the nice story around it.
And the balloon.
And the balloon, yeah, the balloon. And it's a nice word to say, balloon. And it's really important to have that into your game. Once again, ultra casual game must be played by everyone, children to grandma. So it needs to have a design that suits everyone in a way. And for the moment, positive design with bright color is what bound us together.
Absolutely. And I think that also links something that we wanted to talk about, which is one common theme in all the most successful ultra casual games that they're not threatening.
Yep.
The impact of positive design and these nice colors and nice environments is also that you don't feel stressed out or threatened or under stress when you're playing the game. And that can be done with the mechanics, making a mechanic like helix jump where you can pause on the platform and just bounce, waiting for the good moment. But it could also be done with design, soft colors, nice environments, something that's going to be a bit more relaxing for the player and non-threatening. Yeah. Instead of putting big spikes where the player dies, think about something a little less aggressive.
Think about where the people play and why they play. They play in the subway, it's very stressful. They play in the streets. They want really have a pause in their day, a relaxing pause with positive thoughts, not too much difficulty. They want only satisfaction. Snackability is also the fact that the game needs to be consumed just like a Mars bar, and Mars bar is only pleasure. A few calories for sure, but mostly pleasure.
We only think about it.
Yeah, always.
Okay.
What's next?
I think we wanted to talk a bit about the skeleton method.
Yes.
Yeah. So recently, last week, we published one of our 2 recent games. It's Bumper.io.
I love this one.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. So congratulations to Guillaume also for having made it.
Merci Guillaume.
Merci Guillaume. And what we found really interesting about the game was 2 things. First of all, where the idea came from, and how the developer worked on it and how we worked on it with him, because it was really a common effort.
Yep.
So I think I'm just going to talk about the development and then I can let you talk about the idea.
Yeah. Okay.
So the developer Guillaume, really worked using the skeleton method in the most direct way possible. He came to us with a video which was very, very simply just the bumpers bumping into each other. And that's it. That was the core gameplay. You had to push people off the side and that was it. And from there, a lot of ideas came. So we did 3 iterations, and every time we added a mechanic where we were pretty much sure it was going to help. But because we had a game which wasn't completed when we got it, we had just the bones. The bones was the satisfying gameplay. And then we could build every time to make sure the retention was better until we reached the KPIs and we published the game. And so what we added was a bit of variety, a bit of player progression. We simplified the gameplay, and we also added a bit of a perfect system at the back of the bumpers where you can hit them and you bounce twice as hard. And that was it.
Yeah.
With the core gameplay, that's the only thing that was needed with that game to make it good. So the skeleton method really helped the game, but not just. There was also the basic idea.
Mm-hmm. And no, it's not real online based. We thought about it when we were creating Paper already 2 years ago. Time goes fast. And the idea was to make it real multiplayer for sure, because this was what was really trendy at the time. Don't tell your friend, obviously, but it's not real multiplayer, it's AI. And it's working maybe even better than multiplayer because people can play it on even offline.
Yeah, and there's also something that helps is that as a developer and as a publisher, we can better control player progression.
Yes.
If it's not online. There's less toxic behavior. If the player gets better, the game evolves and adapts to that, and that's definitely something that helps retention.
Yes, and you can balance the difficulty as you want and make it easier, just like we said before.
Just very briefly, I think there's a question that's linking to this from Holly Jr. It sounds like you guys are proposing that we target the users who enjoy playing meditative games, which is an entirely different user base on its own, considering those people really hate ads. That's a really good question. It's I think, and we can talk about this, but I think it's not meditative games so much as games that are non-threatening, which is a difference. There's still games where you can have a mechanic for failure, you can have a perfect system, a scoring system. It's not just a game where you're going to kind of brush the little Japanese garden and it's just going to be relaxing and there's no point to it apart from relaxing. All our games have an objective. All our games have a condition with which you win, in which you lose. If you take 10Q, it's very relaxing, but there's still a goal every level. And so it's not exactly meditative so much as non-threatening.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But you're right, and it's a very interesting question.
Yeah, for sure.
In the end, relaxing game are even the ads are even better tech by the user because the rhythm is slower. They feel relaxed, so they can tolerate more to have a break of 5 seconds to watch an ad and then go back to the game. In Thank You, it's really obvious. You play slowly, wait for the end of the level. Okay, you get an ad, you wait for 5 seconds, and then you go back. In the end, it makes even the integration of the ads a little bit less intrusive.
Yeah, and kind of it's also nicer to see an ad if you win than if you lose.
Yeah. About games ideas, guys, it's something that you are really eager to. Obviously, we are always thinking about new games idea. It's really, really hard. We know that. One thing that we've discovered so far, a source of inspiration, are basically YouTube videos of former games, very, very famous game, like with multi small game, mini games, like
games.
Mario Party, party games.
Crash Bash,
the Crash Bandicoot one.
Yeah, Crash Bash.
Yeah, Crash Bash, and Mario Party. They are like maybe hours of videos, and those guys were really, really good already at telling a small story and find really interesting gameplay.
Brilliant game designers.
Yeah, obviously brilliant game designers, but this is not applied to mobile, and sometimes you need to you can take one idea and merge two games together to create a new innovative one, and this is a really, really nice source of inspiration. We invite you to go see them. Maybe we'll put the link at the end of the live stream in the chat.
Yeah, and it's also very interesting because you have all of these games which are multiplayer games, Mario Party, Crash Bash, you play with your friends. And sometimes having the multiplayer aspect isn't the best solution, sometimes it is. So you need to really try and understand for each mini game, what's the cool thing about it, what's the satisfying thing about it, and work up from there. So it's really, there's some brilliant source of inspiration in those videos.
Yes. A small question from Junior Pro, and hello Junior.
Yep.
I see sometimes you remove the game immediately for 3 days on iOS. If you are talking about the testing in the dashboard, if we remove them, it's because the data, the KPIs we get, CPI and retention, are terrible and really not good.
Yep.
So we prefer cut it in order not to spend too much money because we test a lot of game. Yeah, that's it.
Yep. What's the next?
Hello Triangle. The next topic will be the trends of the week. First of all, we are not really, trends are important for sure to follow what's going on in the market, but the most important is to go beyond those, so please, it's really important to get an idea of what are the trends, but please try to go above them, beyond them. So we identified two main trends on the market. The first one is the small action, big reward, like the chain effect. Reaction chain?
It's like reaction. It's like Rube Goldberg switches. Check it out on YouTube, Rube Goldberg, and basically the idea is that it's those videos where somebody pushes a little switch, and then you have the whole chain reaction that goes down. So that's not the gameplay idea, but it's that idea that you do something, and then multiple things get in motion, and you get to the apple. So I think Hello Stars is exactly that.
Yes. Yeah. Everything is in the title, One small action, you give a big reward, like even an animation, from just one input from the player.
Yep.
Second trend is the childish design. We don't know if we really believe in that one. It's same. It's similar in Hello Star. Love Balls also was like this. Drawing also a little bit like Doodle Jump at the time. This is something. I'm personally not a big fan of it, but it seems to be quite trendy at the time. You asked for some trends. This is one trend we identified for the moment. Maybe give it a try in your next prototype and see how it goes.
One of the possible explanations, I think, is that these games all have in common that they're kind of draw games, and the fact of having a sheet of paper and the kind of environment that's coherent with that seemed like a coherent choice for the developer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to know exactly, is it because they're draw games that they were popular? Is it because of the design is childish and like school paper and school supplies? It could be both together. It could be just one. So, I think it's always interesting to go explore. If you have a game that matches that design, definitely try it out and we'll see if it works out.
Mm-hmm. Krishna, hi. To answer you, man, You want to know the difference in terms of KPIs and metrics between Rise Up and Keeper. We know a little bit the difference. They were quite similar. Rise Up was a little bit above, but the main difference was, I think, in the CPI, mainly because of the fact that they were telling a small story better than us, and also their choice of color was really less stressful and gave a more positive and threatless environment rather than Keeper, which was black and white.
A bit more aggressive.
Yeah, a little bit more aggressive, anxiogène in French.
We have a question from Patel India, which is a bit process oriented, but
yeah, we still have like 3 minutes left during this live stream, so we'll answer your process question and question all along the way.
So from Patel India, thanks for asking. Today my game in testing by Voodoo, then we will do the campaign for 5 days. Are you increase campaign days afterwards? So if I understand your question correctly, the campaign is running for 4 days. That's completely enough for us to get the data. If your game shows interesting KPIs, then we will either be in contact with you, or you'll be able to propose an iteration in which we can then increase the days of the campaigns. So definitely, we need to check the results and then afterwards see what it's doing.
Kierun Studio, hey man. Voodoo, should we market the game on Touch Arcade Twitter during the testing period to increase the load? Certainly not, because this is a testing period and the goal is not to increase the download. The goal is to know the real potential of the game. All the testing are standardized, so all games are treated the same way. So if you boost artificially your game, your campaign, then the result will be false, and this is not good.
Yeah, and it's going to completely bias the test and not work in your favor.
Yeah. Where is Alex?
Yeah,
Alex
is just there.
Do you want to say hi? Actually,
hey guys.
Alex is just there.
Alex is the video engineer.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for asking. All good?
Yeah, it's Dmitry.
We have a question from Neil Mewada, which is very interesting, and we kind of touched on it. Yeah. How can we improve the ad tolerance of our games so that ad doesn't affect retention much? That's super interesting. We're still, it's a complex subject, and I think there's multiple ways to do it. And if you go too far in one direction, it won't work. Two things we know for sure is showing an ad after something a bit more positive works. The end of a level, a nice animation if you die, that kind of stuff. And the second thing is in terms of rhythm of pacing. We talked about it with 10Q. If your game session is 20 seconds, like for every time you play, and then you watch an ad every, I don't know how many, like X number of games played, that's going to be very difficult for the player, because the frequency of ads is going to be very high. So the goal is to have very long game sessions, that the player plays many games, but he watches an acceptable number of ads. So you can show the same number of ads just by having the player play longer is much better than a lot of ads in a short period of time.
Yeah, to sum up, it's the way you integrate it and how the way your game is built to support it in a way. Alex is there. Actually, one last question, guys, which is really interesting. Alexander, c'est de qui Zen Game contre Abstract Game?
Cool.
It's from Cool.
Cool, yeah.
From Cool. Really cool question. And basically, Zen Game versus Abstract Games, which are the most mass market? I think your question means more like game like Thank You versus game like Snake versus Block. At least we got it like this. It created a little bit of debate.
Like meditative games.
Yeah, it's a little bit the same like meditative game. I think they are both mass market, but the Zen game are more trendy right now. Short answer. That's it, guys. Thank you very much. We always enjoy talking to you. It's always a pleasure to see you exchange together.
Yeah, we love the chat on the YouTube live. We always check it out.
You guys are really cool, and you are building up a really nice community around Voodoo and around casual gaming in general, ultra casual. So thank you very much, and talk to you next week.
Yeah, have a great day, guys. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Cheers.
It is me on the chat, so if you have any questions, you can go ask them, and I'll try to answer as soon as possible.
Fake.